I should have known something was off the second I stepped into the house that night. The air was too still, like the silence was holding its breath, waiting for something to explode. And then it did. Red and blue lights flashed through the living room windows. A hard knock rattled the door like a death sentence. "Open up. Police." I barely had time to react before I was yanked out of my own damn home, my face pressed against the hood of a squad car, the cold metal of handcuffs snapping tight around my wrists. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded, but no one answered me. Then I saw her. Jessica, my wife, standing on the porch with her two little sidekicks, her best friends, Lauren and Ashley, watching the whole thing go down like it was the best show they'd ever seen. Jessica covered her mouth like she was so shocked, but I saw it. That flicker of amusement in her eyes. Lauren wasn't even trying to hide it, nudging Ashley as they both fought back laughter. "See if you can talk your way out of this," Jessica called out, her voice laced with venomous delight. That was the last thing I heard before the cops shoved me into the back of the cruiser. It was a setup, a sick, twisted joke. And I was the punchline. An hour later, after sitting in a holding cell with a bunch of real criminals, I found out what they did. Apparently, someone had called the police claiming I was threatening Jessica, that I was dangerous. Some anonymous report, no real evidence, just enough for the cops to haul me in and make me look like a monster. And for what? For a prank. Jessica and her friends thought it would be hilarious to get me arrested. A test to see how good my lawyer skills were, according to her. "Relax, babe, it was just a joke," she giggled when she finally picked me up. "We were just messing around. Didn't you love my performance?" Her performance? I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman, the one I had spent 7 years of my life with, had set me up, humiliated me, and left me to rot in a cell, for a laugh. Something inside me snapped. I should have left that night, walked away, and never looked back. But I didn't, because 2 months later, I found out the real joke. And this time, the punchline wasn't on me. I didn't even have time to react. 1 second, I was walking through my front door, and the next, boom. Red and blue lights exploded through the windows. A battering knock shook the walls. "Open up. Police." My heart slammed against my ribs. What the hell? The door flew open, and suddenly, I was yanked forward. Hands grabbed me, twisted my arms behind my back. "What the hell is going on?" I shouted. No answer. Just the cold bite of handcuffs locking around my wrists. I turned my head, and that's when I saw her. Jessica, my wife, standing outside with her two little sidekicks, Lauren and Ashley. And they were laughing. I couldn't believe it. My own wife watching me get dragged out of my house like some criminal. She covered her mouth like she was so shocked, but I saw it, the sick amusement in her eyes. And then she said it. "See if you can talk your way out of this." And that's when I knew this wasn't a mistake. It was a setup, a twisted joke. And I was the punchline. The police didn't care about my questions. They shoved me into the back of the cruiser, slammed the doors shut, and drove off like I was some kind of violent criminal. My mind was racing, heart pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to break out of my chest. What the hell just happened? Through the tinted windows, I could still see them, Jessica and her two little demons, standing in the driveway, laughing like they had just pulled off the greatest prank in history. I clenched my fists, the metal of the cuffs biting into my skin. My own wife had me arrested. And for what? A joke? The ride to the station felt like forever. Every second, my anger boiled hotter. This had to be some kind of mistake. Some kind of misunderstanding. Jessica would call, tell them it was all a prank, and I'd be out of there in no time. But she didn't call. And I stayed locked up for 6 hours. By the time they let me out, I had a nice little record with a note that said domestic disturbance, and my head was spinning with a million questions. Jessica was waiting for me outside, leaning against her car like she was bored out of her mind. "Babe, you look pissed," she smirked. I stopped dead in my tracks. Pissed. My voice came out low, controlled, but inside I was ready to explode. "I just spent 6 hours in a holding cell because of you." "Oh, come on," she rolled her eyes. It was a joke. I stared at her, waiting for some kind of regret. Some kind of anything. But there was nothing. Just that smug little smile like I was supposed to laugh it off. I had never wanted to hit anything so badly in my life. "You got me arrested for fun?" "Oh my God, lighten up," she scoffed. "Me and the girls just wanted to see how good you were at handling pressure. You always say you're great under stress, right? So we put you to the test." She laughed. She laughed. It took everything in me not to lose it right there in the parking lot. I gritted my teeth. "You think this is funny?" Jessica shrugged. Relax. They let you out, didn't they? No harm, no foul. No harm, no foul. Like my reputation, my record, my trust in her meant nothing. That was the moment I should have left. Walked away and never looked back. But I didn't. Because I was still too blind, too stupid to see the real betrayal. 2 months later, the joke would be on her. 2 months later, I found out what Jessica was really up to. And this time, it wasn't a joke. It started with the little things. The late nights out with the girls. The sudden obsession with her phone, the way she'd tilt the screen away whenever I walked by. The way she smelled different, like expensive cologne that sure as hell wasn't mine. At first, I ignored it. Or maybe I just didn't want to believe it. After all, she was my wife. The woman I had built a life with. The woman who swore she loved me. But love doesn't look like whispered phone calls in the middle of the night. Love doesn't look like lying about where you've been. Love doesn't look like laughing while your husband sits in a jail cell because you thought it would be funny. One night, she said she was going to dinner with Lauren and Ashley. Just another girls' night, just like all the others. But this time, I followed her. She didn't go to a restaurant. She went to a hotel. I parked across the street, my fingers gripping the steering wheel so hard I thought it might break. I told myself to be rational, to wait, to see if maybe, just maybe, I was wrong. But I wasn't. 15 minutes later, he showed up. Tall, expensive suit, that cocky way some men walk when they think they own the world. And Jessica? She greeted him like he was her damn king. Arms around his neck, lips on his, right there in the parking lot. No hesitation. No guilt. No shame. I felt everything at once. Rage, betrayal, disgust. My entire world shattered in the space of a heartbeat. She turned, laughing at something he said, and that's when she saw me. For the first time in our marriage, Jessica looked scared. She froze. Her smile vanished, replaced by something almost like fear, but not quite. It was more like she was caught and just didn't know how to play it off yet. I stepped out of the car, my body moving on pure instinct, every muscle tight with adrenaline. The guy, whoever the hell he was, glanced between us, confused. He didn't even know who I was. Jessica recovered fast. She flipped her hair, crossed her arms, and tilted her head like I was the problem here. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sharp, defensive. I stared at her, my pulse hammering in my ears. That's what she had to say? No apology. No guilt. Just straight to the attitude. "Who the hell is he?" I asked, ignoring her question. The guy had the nerve to laugh. "Whoa, man, you good?" He smirked. "I don't know what's going on here, but..." "Shut up." My voice was low, dangerous. He shut up. Jessica rolled her eyes. "Oh, don't be dramatic. You're embarrassing yourself." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was embarrassing myself? The man she vowed to love, the man she swore she'd be faithful to, the man she humiliated by sending to jail for fun? Something inside me snapped. "You've been sneaking around for months, haven't you?" I stepped closer, my hands clenched into fists. All those girls' nights, was it always him? Or were there others? She didn't even flinch. Just let out an annoyed sigh, like I was wasting her time. "God, you're so dramatic," she muttered. "It's not like we're in love or anything." It hit me like a truck. She wasn't even trying to deny it. No fake tears, no begging, no excuses. Just pure, cold indifference. The guy chuckled again, shaking his head. "Damn, bro. That's rough." I wanted to break his face. Jessica must have sensed it, because she grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the hotel. "Whatever, we're done talking. Go home and get over it." I didn't stop her. I just stood there, watching the woman I thought I knew walk away with another man like I meant nothing. She didn't even look back. I stood there, frozen, my fist clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. The rage inside me burned like wildfire, but beneath it, something worse lurked: humiliation. She didn't even try to lie. No fake sob story, no desperate attempt to save face. Just casual indifference. Like I was a nobody. Like 7 years of marriage meant nothing. I don't know how long I stood in that parking lot, watching them disappear through the hotel doors, but eventually, I forced myself to move. Driving home felt like a blur. My hands were shaking on the wheel, my thoughts spiraling out of control. I kept replaying it in my head, her face, her voice, the way she didn't even hesitate before walking away. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to waste another second being some fool she could laugh at. I was going to end this my way. The house felt different when I walked in. Colder. Like whatever illusion of love we had left had finally shattered. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't take anything but my wallet and my keys. I wasn't going to argue, wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a fight. I just grabbed my phone and sent one message. We're done. Have fun with your boy toy. Then I walked back out and never looked back. For days, I waited for a response. Some kind of reaction. An angry text, a fake apology, something. But it never came. Jessica didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up at my door. She really didn't give a damn. And that's when I realized I had wasted 7 years on a woman who never loved me in the first place. That realization hit harder than I expected. 7 years. 7 years of loyalty, commitment, and believing we were building something real gone. Like it never even mattered. At first, I told myself I was fine, that I had dodged a bullet, that walking away was the best thing I could have done. And maybe it was. But the silence? That was what messed with me. No apology. No explanation. Not even an insult. It was like I had never even existed in her life. Days passed. Then weeks. I kept expecting her to at least pretend to care, maybe throw a half-assed excuse my way. But Jessica? She moved on like nothing happened. Mutual friends stopped talking to me. Either they were too awkward to pick sides, or more likely, she had fed them some kind of story. Lauren and Ashley? They were still hanging around her, laughing, living their lives like they hadn't been part of her sick joke. And me? I was stuck replaying it all in my head, every damn day. Then, 2 months later, I got the news. It started with a random message from an old friend. Someone who wasn't in Jessica's little circle of enablers. Dude, have you seen what's going on with your ex? I hadn't. I wasn't checking up on her, wasn't scrolling through her socials like some heartbroken idiot. But that message? It got to me. I hesitated for half a second before searching her name. And there it was. Jessica, my ex-wife, was trending. Not in a good way. Apparently, her boy toy wasn't just some random guy. He was married, with kids, and his real wife had just found out. The scandal was everywhere. Screenshots, photos, recordings. His wife had put everything online, exposing Jessica for exactly what she was. A liar. A cheat. A homewrecker. And now? The internet was ripping her apart. I should have felt bad. I didn't. All I felt was satisfaction. Jessica's downfall played out like a slow-motion train wreck, and for the first time in months, I wasn't the one left in the wreckage. The guy she had thrown our marriage away for? He wasn't just married, he was loaded. Some big-shot executive with a picture-perfect family, the kind of man who had everything to lose. And when his wife found out, she torched his entire life. She didn't just leave him, she went nuclear. Took everything. Maxed out his credit cards, wiped out their joint accounts, and then exposed every single dirty secret he had. And Jessica? She went down with him. Screenshots of their messages. Photos of them sneaking around. Audio recordings of her laughing about how easy it was to manipulate him. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She wasn't just careless, she was stupid. The internet had a field day. The comments were brutal. People dug up everything about her, ripped her apart, called her every name in the book. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get better, her job found out. She worked in PR, public relations. The kind of job where image is everything. And now? Her name was attached to one of the biggest cheating scandals of the year. She was fired immediately. I found out through a mutual friend that she had to move out of her apartment. She couldn't afford the rent anymore. The woman who had set me up, humiliated me, and walked away without a second thought was now jobless, homeless, and completely alone. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Months passed. I rebuilt my life, focused on myself, surrounded myself with people who actually gave a damn about me. And then, out of nowhere, Jessica called. I almost didn't pick up. Almost let it go to voicemail just to prove that I was so far beyond her, she didn't even exist in my world anymore. But curiosity got the better of me. I answered. She hesitated. Her voice was different, smaller, weaker. Hey. I didn't say anything. She took a shaky breath. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I let that sit for a second. Sorry for what? Silence. She knew. She knew that no matter what she said, it wouldn't undo what she did. She let out a breath, like she was holding back tears. I messed up. I almost laughed. Messed up? She destroyed our marriage. She set me up to get arrested. She treated me like I was nothing. And now, when she had nothing left, she wanted to talk? I smiled. Not because I forgave her. Not because I felt bad. But because I had one. I know, I said, my voice calm. Take care, Jessica. Then I hung up. And I never looked back.